where they come from, they live in small rooms or small houses. So a few of these things have been normalized. You understand what I mean? So the child at a very early age has seen it, done it. Yet he hasn't seen it on TV. He's seen it in real life. And now there comes an issue, and we had that discussion as teachers. How do I help a child who's been abused and is being abused by the father in the home, and we are planning to see how we can rescue the child? And the issue was, would I allow that child to come in my home? I said no, because it would need a lot of counseling, because it's been normalized. And what do I mean when I say it's been normalized? You know, we are in church, but we live in a real life. So what was happening was the kid is 10 and 9. You go to their class when there's no teacher. The boys are sitting like this next to the girl. And they're fondling each other. And then everyone got amused. I mean, the teacher, one of the teachers saw and was like, where did you see this? You know, in a jokingly manner. And then the kid releases a lot of information. And then the teacher realizes that the child is not even 10. She's a 20-year-old person, but wrapped up in a 10-year-old mind. So when you talk to these children, the sex is no longer something sacred. It's no longer sacred. And then when we went in, and sorry to say, we were discussing it as teachers. So one of the teachers, we started talking about rape in the community around the area. And I'm referring to teachers because teachers have authority. I think it's the doctor, the pastor, then the teacher. Because the teacher will mold my child's life. So I was interested in knowing there's a single mother, she's a teacher with 2 boys. And I've been praying about the whole thing because I'm like, the vibes the teacher is bringing, they're not positive at all. And she's single, and she made a few comments about sexuality, which I do not ascribe to. And she was of the opinion, you can do it anywhere, nobody bothers. You know, they have that open kind of a mentality. And I was like, if this is the teacher and my child is sitting in her class, surely I have a lot of prayer and work to do. You understand? Because how much can I do that? I hadn't finished the story. The young boy, the teacher's son, who is barely 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 years, is undressing and going and taking a younger girl outside there. Now, the girl who's telling me this story is only 5. And you know, that time I'm like, do you know what you're saying? The kid is like, listen, I want to tell you something. And I'm like, yeah? What happened? So and so, they went out, and I'm like, in your school? And I'm like, okay, that's cool. The oldest person is 11. So it's a small population school. So practically we are talking of people who are less than 100 years. 100 students. So we know them. We know each other. So I'm like, oh, I thought the danger is on 13-year-old boy. Now it's on 4. Are you seeing what I'm saying? So at 4 they know. And then I was looking, this kid at 4 is saying, there's a song that is going on. Mkona pombe, something like that. You know the song? Mumeshika nini nini. So I'm like, oh, they know, yeah? I can't even repeat the lyrics. You can see them smiling. Yeah, everyone with their cup.
You are very old.
It's being
I don't know the song. You are worse.
Oh, there is a song and they know it, eh? I would say the tune, but it's something like, are you holding a cup of beer? Oh, yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are. Oh, yes, we are. And then we go now. We want to say church to that. And then they go to all the areas you would not want to mention. Yes.
That song, these are my favorite.
I don't know.
Bas. You'll go and research. So I was thinking the risk is coming from kids who are 13. So it's at 4-year-old level. So a 5-year-old girl is the one who's recording me. Educating me. And then they have this song they're singing about sukari. Simnaijua? Okay, you know the hidden meaning in it. Oh, you're looking at me like, by the way now, much as you're a Christian, I want to tell you this. Please know the drugs and what they stand for, and even the songs they sing. Some I don't want to say them, but they're there. So, nataka sukari. So when this kid comes, she's 4. She's singing the song. I know I'm hidden and I want to figure out. So the idea of what makes it work, what does a marriage make work? If you're coming from a single parent's home, I'm so sorry, the background is so wrong. And we have a point whereby most of us tend to repeat what we saw our parents do. Or you've had it so wrong for so long. You've had it wrong for so long that you don't even, there's a distortion. So even if the pastor comes and tells you the right thing, you're wrong. So even when we are in churches, we're imagining at mtu akiwa 13 or 10, you're good to go. I was very shocked to find out that 9-year-olds are very sexually active in our schools. So that is the message I'm bringing across. So it has been done wrong. It is past it. There are some communities which actually, and I don't want to mention names, there's some communities which actually even allow it to happen, so long as you don't get caught. Yes. I know, you'll close your eyes. I hate to admit it. I'm in one of such communities whereby they don't mind you even having 2 or 3 fathers to the same. You have 2 or 3, it's in culture, whereby you can father children who are not of the same father for security reasons. So sometimes our culture betrays us. You understand what I mean? Yeah, even the Kikuyus, sometimes our culture betrays us. It's become to such an extent from the Kikuyus that it is very common to be a single parent and you'll be accepted. And in fact, the boy child is so happy to be called the mother's name. I have nothing against it, but what it stands for is going to pull you back. What it stands for, if you've seen your mother,
It's a trend that is growing.
and it's a trend that is being accepted, but it is wrong. So it affects the esteem. Everyone is calling himself Steve Wanjiro. And then we have this aspect whereby if the mother has been the head, when you marry such a man, it will be hard for him to take the lead unless he's been mentored by somebody else. Am I communicating? And if you, as a woman, you've been mentored or been brought up by a single parent, it will be very hard for you to submit unless somebody else sits along with you, because you've already seen your mother take the reins. You get it?
Yes.
Yeah, I can say it just that way. So you will need to sit under the feet of somebody and learn what it means to be a father, or what it means to have a husband or a wife figure. I think I've spoken.
Very well spoken. I have a question. Let me direct it to Coach Tony, because he told us how he grew up. How was he able to change and now be what he did not grow up with?
Like when I was, I guess I want to start. So how was I able to change? I would say it began when I was 21 years of age when I accepted Christ. I did not have a frame of reference for what a man was. I did not have a role model for what a mother should be. So I had to learn a lot through the Bible. I can say 99% of what I know as a man and who I am as a man, I learned from the Bible. I did not learn from any other man. So I'm saying the Word of God is that important, and the Spirit of God convicting you as a man or as a woman. That really, really helped me. I know it sounds really cliche and it's a very simple answer, but it's the truth. I cannot boast or brag that I had a generational blessings and wisdom passed down to me from any other person other than the wisdom of the Word of God. And my life began to change. But And it changed so much that my wife came to me one day, because when we were married, we were not believers. She came to me and said, "How do you become a Christian? I want what you got." Because she saw me loving her, doing the things that a man was supposed to do. My wife was a very independent woman. She came from a single mother home, and she had a very independent feminist attitude that she didn't even need a man. She already had a degree in education before I met her. So she was over empowered, if you understand what I'm saying. And she did not know how to reverence and respect a man, especially a husband. And for me, not having that role modeled in the home, I did not know how to love a wife. And so I never forget the first time I heard 1 Corinthians 13. I was working in the barbershop. I was 21 years of age, the same year I accepted the Lord. And that was the first time I actually heard a definition of what love is. Most people think love is a feeling. And most people think love is a song. And we live our lives based on that song. If you think I'm lying, somebody tell me a love song right now, a song that you listen to that talks about love, that's very popular. Yes. What is it? You Always Be My Baby. Anybody else? Come on, tell the truth. You hear it all the time. When you hear that song, it reminds you of love. Or it reminds you of somebody that.
I used to hear another one. Every woman needs a man.
Every woman needs a man. There's a lady in the U.S., her name is Tina Turner. You ever heard of Tina Turner? What's love got to do with it? What's love but a second-hand emotion? Yo, so y'all know that? Okay, love has everything to do with it, because love is of God. So God came into my life, and he changed my worldview, my lens. Is there a specific question you would want to ask in regard to that? Like, what change happened? Or, I don't know.
I think I've gotten it now. Because, okay, I was just basing it on what Coach Betty was saying, how the fact that how you grew up and now the society expects you to be a better father.
Yeah.
No.
Again, it's the Bible. The Word of God is. Listen, I'm not this smart. Let me tell you something. I'm not this smart. The Word of God will make you smarter than you really are. I'm not that wise to sit here and to tell you that I know it all, because I don't. But what I do know is what God did for me. I do know that. And that's why I tell you the story, because if God can help me, there are kids that come from the gutter, and then there's me that comes from under the gutter. And if God is able to take me from under the gutter and bring me to a place where the story of my life has been changed, the story of even my parents' failure has changed. Because now the whole family, they look at me. I'm talking about my whole family, not just my mom and my sister, but I'm saying everybody in my family, they look to me now as the leader in the family. But before, I was the child of a schizophrenic mother and a cracked out father, a drugged out father. Do you understand what I'm saying? I was the black sheep. I was the last, the least of these that God made the first. Do you understand what I'm saying? So, and I really want to emphasize that, because like I say, I don't want you to think that I've pulled myself up by my own bootstraps and have arrived. I can tell you some things. I finished 47 out of 108 people in my graduating class. So I was in the bottom half of graduating class. Y'all hear me what I'm saying? But I have 5 degrees. And that's nothing to brag about, but I have that. And God helped me to do that. I've reached a professional status in the community where I've served as a clinical chaplain in a major hospital in our city, counseling doctors and nurses and family members. Not because I'm so wise, not because I'm so good. My children have been raised in the fear and the admonition of the Lord, and they are doing even better than I did at their age. You hear what I'm saying? I have a son who's a school teacher who just got married. Listen. He didn't say girlfriend, he married the girl. And do you know how rare that is in the United States? It has moved from 7 out of 10 to 9 out of 10 boys who do not have a father in the home. That means it's between 1 and 3% of those boys have a father in the home. Know what a mother is. Not my baby daddy, a baby mama. Amen? They're called unicorns in the United States. You know what a unicorn is? What is it?
A pony with power.
What is the meaning? What's the horse with power and it has 1 horn?
Yes.
What is the uniqueness about the unicorn? What is the idea or concept behind it? Is it real?
They're very rare. They're not real, actually.
If you, it's a phobia. It's not real.
Utopia.
Utopia. Okay, and so the unicorn is said to be so rare. That's the thing, that it's hard to find. The black man in the United States who is a father in the home, raising his children, working, is a unicorn. My son has just become one, and that should be the norm for, it should be normal for us. I shouldn't have to brag about. That's nothing to brag. That's what a man's supposed to do. It's the Lord's doing. So I say to you, so I hope that helps you stay in the Word of God and then practice. There are 2 teachings in the Bible, or 2 theological terms. Orthodoxy. Can you say that with me? Orthodoxy. That means the right teaching. Then orthopraxis. Say that, orthopraxis. That's the right application of the teaching. So right learning leads to right living. Learning from God, you can never go wrong. Let me ask you this. Who is smarter than God? Listen to me. I'm going to ask you that question again. Who is smarter than God? And guess what? He gave you his textbook. He gave you the knowledge of him and all that you need to know to apply to your life. You don't need it from the philosophers, the scientists. God has given you everything you need, and even the intelligence to live out life with understanding and application. So that's why it goes back to say faith without works is dead. You must apply works to your faith so that your life begins to change. And the Word of God will change you. It will change you like never before. And I'm here to say that I'm a product of Jesus Christ, the Word of God, and the Holy Spirit working together in me that brought about the change.
Okay. Thank you very much. We are remaining with 2 questions on the topic of love. And I just want us to breeze very quickly through them. The first question is, can infatuation lead to a good relationship with someone? Can infatuation lead to a good relationship with someone? Coaches. I see Coach Joseph nodding his head vigorously.
spark of infatuation, it's short-lived. So it's a contrast of love. So it can't. It can't. It can't.
Thank you. Thank you. I hope the one who asked the question has been answered. I don't know if there was a follow-up question to that, though. Next question. Is there a stipulated time that one should take after a breakup before getting into another one? Is there a stipulated time that one should take after a breakup before getting into another one? Another one in this case, I guess, means a relationship. So you just got out of a relationship, and the time you're supposed to take before you get into another relationship. And if yes, how long? We're talking about a breakup in a relationship. I'm not sure this is in context of marriage. So how long should one take between one relationship to another?
I think it depends on the individual, because it will depend on how long it will take you to get healed. There are some people who take so long after a breakup, and it just shatters them and they are just messed up. It takes so long to come up again. There are some people who get out of that and they can just walk and they are fine. So we cannot say, okay, according to me, I may not say there is a stipulated time. Depends on the individuals.
Okay.
Yeah, how they react and how the healing happens. Because a breakup of a relationship causes pain.
Yes.
It does. And it can make some people just go down. Some people can even become depressed. Others can, anything can happen. So depending on the individual, how do they come up? How long will it take for them to get healed?
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who has anything to contribute?
The healing has to be real
Okay.
and not fake. So long as you feel you're okay to begin another one, it's okay. But be honest to yourself. Don't just jump to another one, because if you're still hurting, you hurt the next person.
Yes.
So be genuine, be real. And again, we are saying, as Tony has really emphasized, let's seek God. Let's not just jump to things. Because how I mean, will you take if you jumped from one relationship to another one and to another one and to another one? Why? Yeah. So it's very important for you to know, don't hurt so many people. And also don't hurt yourself. Because if you break so many, you are not sure even the one which you will stick to.
Yes.
You'll be hurting. And you say, oh, it doesn't work. You give up at the end of the day. Yeah. So take care of yourself.
Let me add and say this as it pertains to the relationship, and it's a big blunder I see you young people do. A relationship does not make you whole. It is your wholeness that will help you have a healthy relationship. But you do the other way around, whereby you think if you are not in a relationship, you are not whole and you are not normal. And because of that, you just end up falling into the wrong hands of a Tom, Dick, and Harry, because you want to prove a point to other people, because they're saying, you have never seen Kimani with a guy, so you want to show them that you are normal. No, but you need to be whole. You are not incomplete because you are not in a relationship. Please understand that. It does not mean you are incomplete. So when a right relationship comes, should find you whole and complete so that you can be able to complement the other person. Or else, you will be getting into relationship to seek for things. And so if you don't get those things you are seeking for, you end up getting even hurt the more. Or at times, to get approval from that relationship, you might end up compromising some of your values that should not be compromised. So it's very important you understand. Are we together? And lastly, yeah, before you answer, and then lastly, enter into a relationship the right time. I've not said the right age. I've said the right time, whereby you know that you are ready. Because if you are not ready for a relationship, it can end up messing you. And many people end up not recovering, whereby you find the spillovers follow you to the next relationship.
My name is Kevin, and I have a question regarding fertility, especially among young people today. You realize that fertility or infertility is something that has always been associated with women, especially in our society, whereby you realize that a young man gets engaged, then they get married, right? So they'll get married pure. They've never touched, they've never had sex, or to the worst extent, they've never used P2s or all that, yeah? So when they finally get married, you realize that both of you cannot bear a kid. So what are you supposed to do at that point, given that you two took a vow before the altar and you promised that until death do us apart, right? Then the other thing, that is a question. The other thing that really I think is affecting young people today and really making marriages not to work for us is because we want to live as per the pressures and the expectations of the society. I have a friend of mine who got married. They got kids, 2 kids. But then when they got the second kid, he told me, Kevin, I think we were not ready for the second kid, right? But then because he had come, we had just to bear to the situation. So after the second born, they lived for like, I think, some months. Then they separated. So you see, it is the boy or it is the man who actually hustled for a job for the lady, because by the time they were marrying, the lady was jobless. But then after the lady secured a job and they already had 2 kids, they separated. And it's the lady
Who initiated the separation?
the lady, after they had 2 kids. So what actually happened is the guy, he didn't heal, by the way. He jumped into another girl who again he impregnated. Yeah? So like as we speak, the lady is expectant at 7 months, 8 months actually, because they did a scan just the other day. And the guy is now expecting the 3rd child.
Is he born again?
I don't know, you know.
You said he's your friend.
He's
No, you
my
s-
friend, but being born again is a personal,
No.
it's somehow personal. But from what I see, I don't
You go to
think
the
so.
same church?
No, we don't.
You know, this one I'm asking, interrogating. You know, when I say Coach Betty is my friend, it's different by saying he's an acquaintance. Yeah, that's what I'm asking.
Oh, okay. So he is a Catholic, but though he hardly goes to the church, right?
Catholic?
Myself?
Eh.
No, I'm a
Okay.
Seventh-day Adventist.
Okay.
Yeah. So basically, what happens is, one thing I find unique with his situation is, the same guy doubts if their firstborn with the first girl is his kid. And at the same time, he doubts if this kid, if the pregnancy is his, yeah? So like he's torn in between. And as we speak, I think he told me they separated with the pregnant girl. You understand? So I don't know how perhaps he could help that situation.
Number one, there's a very, very, there's something they have said. You see, in Kenya, let me talk for our,
Yes.
let me speak for our country. In other countries, maybe at 21, you're still a child. In US, at 21, you could get married, and they do get married. I'll explain why there's an age difference, much as you're 21 and all. Our education system takes longer. So you find, yes, so you see, the longer you take, it means at a life, you start late. Then secondly, also what I could say about that, at 21, were they married or were they just hanging out together? And then maybe I would investigate, why did the first girl choose to separate with this boy? Maybe that boy has a problem, all right? So secondly, there's a lot of doubt. The doubt comes when you try to, and let me talk to ladies, never ever think you can trap a man by getting his baby. Yeah, along the way, you are the one who's going to have 2 kids and be left. So you can never trap a man, all right? So let's agree to that. He will go. Aya. So number 2, whether the boy was healed, allow me to call him a boy, I think he has to live up to responsibility, and then he's in denial. Him saying that he doubts whether the firstborn child is his child, I think right now, technology can solve that. He could simply do a DNA. That's an easy one. So if he really is sure and he's thinking that way, he can cough only 100K. It's not a lot of money. Unless he's trying to run away from responsibility. 100,000 is not a lot of money based on taking a child, bringing up a child for 18 good years. You understand? So 100,000 in relation to bringing
I
up a
am
child
being
for
told
18.
it's not 100,000, it's 23,000.
Even if it's 23,000, that's very cheap. It's very cheap. So I think that is one of the issues he can resolve. 2, I may address, and this one I'll tell it to men. And David happened. David also fell in the same thing. Please check out your background. And I think what he said, you have to be very intentional with your salvation. If you're willing to learn from the Bible, it is going to help you. If you're not very serious with your salvation, the entrapments of your parent will also become your entrapments. Yes. Familiar. So this boy who is impregnating girl 1, girl 2, I think it's important for him to sit back and check what is his story. And then secondly, if he has a problem, instead of denying and saying it's not his child, he seems to have an idea of scattering seeds. So for me, chances are 95% that is his child. All right? Yeye ndio hajajipanga. He's not prepared himself. So I'm seeing a boy and not a man. So girls, there's a big difference between a boy and a man. And it's not based on age. It's based on responsibility. And how do you clean up your mess after it has happened? And then this thing of me, and by the way, let me tell everyone here, this thing of you coming back later and saying, oh, I married young, that is why the marriage is not working. No. If you decide to marry young, stick there. Decide to marry at 18, lakini you stick wapi? Otherwise, nobody is forcing you to get married. Yeah, if you know you're not sure whether at 18 you're making good choices, then wait until you're 25. Then another thing that also is a big problem, and I'll mention it, in Kenya it is, money changes our minds. So when you marry a man who doesn't have money, and when he gets married, nowadays, not long time ago, nowadays, it's a very big dynamic. There are men who, the minute they get a job and they have that car, even if it's on loan, all ladies will follow this man. And he won't say no. There's a lady once she gets that job, anakuwa kichwa ngumu, quote unquote. It goes both ways. So if you're marrying somebody who is not married, who's never had a job, or you've never seen their true colors with their money, then be sure you might be in for a shock if they get sudden changes. And that is why even some coaches, I've had life coaches talk. There's one who is always on NTV saying, you have no business. And by the way, psychologically, they'll tell you, you have no business marrying at a tender age. Okay, and this is subject to you, and it's not up to me to determine the age limit at which you're supposed to get married at. But if you decide to do it at 21, at 20, we have evidence it works, right? But the only problem we have with ourselves is that the minute you see a problem, you run away. And that's what your friend is doing.
Don't have capacity to stand.
Yes, you can't stand the pressure. Let me tell you, marriage has pressure. It has. And just because you're saying, oh, I'm a wife too, oh, kuna pressure pale ndani. So just decide in your head, am I going to hack the heat? If you can't, please hold on. Because nobody, by the way, it's not mandatory. Is it true or not true? No. It's not mandatory.
And it's not a mark of spirituality.
Exactly. And it is not a mark of success.
No.
So you are not obligated to do it. And don't do it because your mom is telling you, because when the heat is on, yes, it will be you. So that is what I would say. So your friend is trying to run away from responsibilities. If he was man enough to father a child, let's see whether he can father the kid. Okay, he sired a child. I'm not sure whether he can father a child. So I would go back to the same thing. If he's coming from a place in Africa where we see you hit and run, you see those roots happening also in America, you know. So you hit, run from what? What are you running from? Figure that out. Number 2, kids don't make a marriage complete. And this is where now, again, I'll tell you, our culture and the Bible, he's really emphasized on the Bible. Our culture and the Bible are worlds apart. Exactly. And in our world, we've been told you must get a kid in Africa. It's a status. It's a status. In fact, it's even known. The fact you say somebody has died, the next question they leave is, has he left anyone? And then I am living in a community where you're looking and you're saying, sorry to say, by the way, there's a poor man's mentality. I'm so sorry to say that. A poor man's mentality is the mentality that he wants to have so many kids. A rich man mentality is, do I have resources to take care of these children? And then God's mentality was, you need to take care of it. So God didn't just tell you to go and multiply. He told you that you'll have, a man has to provide, isn't it? So surely he should have put measures in place. And if it was by flukes, you now agree. The minute you get married, even if you had planned to have 3 kids, there's a probability of a 4th or a 5th one. Yes. So I think those are some of the things at 21 you're not understanding. But if that marriage doesn't have a child, by the way, you could even get kids and still divorce. You get it? So sometimes I'm even like, you'd rather divorce without kids than cause the kids go through that drama and trauma. You get it? But we are so selfish, we want to be called dads. So if a marriage is childless, there are so many options nowadays. There is IVF, there is adoption, there is foster care. So I think the options are so many. It's only that we are tied down to thinking that you must sire your own. Esther was brought up, was kinship adoption. Do you know that? There's a lot of adoption in the Bible. There's kinship adoption. There's even adoption where you adopt somebody whom you really don't know where they come from. So it doesn't have to be your blood. A child, by the way, the person who brings up a child has more impact than actually the person, the donor sperm or the donor egg, so to speak. You understand? So I think as people, we have to accept this idea of there's IVF, it could fail. There's kinship adoption, and there's also just adoption, and it's not open in our country. It's usually closed adoption. I think that's what those are the technicalities I would talk about. Because who tells you that even if you move from this marriage and go and get another one, that you're not carrying the problem? You understand? You could still be transferring the problem, especially if, and in Africa, the men never have problems, but you have men who have low sperm counts, right? So it could be the problem is the man. He goes out. Again, he doesn't sire. So what happens? You understand? So the issue is, okay, let me ask you, how far are you willing to go with God? What happens if now I'm healthy? What happens if I have, God forbid, but what happens if I have a disease that cripples me? Will I still follow God? Right now, I say, am I sticking to God because of the wealth I have? Suppose it's taken away. Am I sticking to God because of the kids I have? Suppose they are not there. Am I sticking to God because of the husband I have? Suppose he's not there. All those are probabilities. So the question is your commitment level subject to what God gives you, or is your commitment level is whether God does or he doesn't, I'm committed to him. You understand? Because if you're serving him for what we are getting from him, then we will walk away at a certain point. So will I serve God regardless? Feel you are regardless.
To add on to what she has said, the issue of childlessness. We have so many stories in the Bible of people who took so long. There are people who take 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, 20 years, and finally they get babies. And we even have examples in the Bible of people at old age, they still get children. I have friends who have stayed for 10 years, and finally they have gotten children. I have other friends who adopted, and down the line they also got their own. The issue of childbirth, it's God who gives babies. You know, that's the most unfortunate thing that we do when you start associating the childlessness with the woman or the man. It's God who gives, and he's the only one who can give. So you can still wait on him, and it can take long, and he will still give. And the question is, as Coach Betty is asking, what's the key thing in this marriage? Was it just about babies? Or what did it mean? That's the question. When you get into marriage, what is it about? Is that the key thing? Is that all you wanted in the marriage? That's the question. Yeah.
I would like to add into something. How many people here, you're in university right now? You are in university, currently, actively in university. Okay. 3rd year, 4th year? I want you to tell me how many years you have learned, starting from the time you remember you went to nursery. We can help count audibly. Please help us. Huh? Huh? No, many finish high school at which age? At 17 or 18? 17. You finish high school at 17. Are you getting me? Then you go to university, first degree, 4 years. And if you are doing something like karaoke engineering, you go for 5 years. If you are doing to be a doctor or pharmacy or a clinical doctor, you go 7 years. True or false? And you'll all agree with me, like Coach Betty, what she went to do, and the mom is saying you have schooled, it's not what is bringing something on the table. She left it. As much time she spent on studying, she left it. Have you ever noticed? I'm saying that because by training, I'm a marriage counselor. Have you noticed that marriage is the only institution, once you have entered, you're supposed to live there until death do you part? Yet it's the one people disregard in learning and studying on how it should work. Hello. It will shock you. I have a good library that when I was doing my things, things and all, everything, I don't need to go to another library to borrow books. But I've invested heavily on marriage books and leadership books. Because as a husband and as a man, I'm a leader. In marriage, I'm a leader. And I need to make my marriage work, because without my marriage working, not by the congregants, but based on God, on Timothy and Titus, I should vacate the pulpit. I have books on parenting. Because if my children are running helter-skelter everywhere, smoking, shisha, and other things, I should vacate the pulpit because I failed in my home, so I shouldn't speak authoritatively. Therefore, I want to talk to you because you are young people. Before even you enter into relationship, and I say to you, shame, because now all of us, let me tell you, we have never said something. We mark your things. You are too shallow. Some of even friends you dab, we can tell. Even we discuss as coaches, we know. You are too shallow. Don't come and try to intimidate us that you are doing engineering. Engineering on what? You are too shallow because your generation is used of Mwakenya and Mr. Google. You don't burn the night candle like us. You remember when we were doing our theology? It's not a joke. You remember when we are doing theology, the earliest you can sleep is 1. There are term papers, thesis to write. You are given 500 books to critique, to make summary. And it's your generation. You are so shallow. And your generation, and she's education can tell you, it has been proven. You people don't study. And because of that, it is instrumental to you. If you're not given, Bible says, Daniel said, Daniel, I understood by books, the years. If you're not a person who reads, you can't lead if you're not a reader. You read to lead. Are we together? In my mother tongue, they say, Nimora jigua. So before you quickly enter into this relationship, please study, learn. And Teacher Bet will tell you, it will help you a lot of great deal when even a wrong person is coming. You won't even need to entertain. Why do you read? First of all, you read to make a discovery of yourself and to equip yourself. When you are equipped, you'll be better. They say this, bankers. Hello, you see bankers? They are trained how to know the real note. So when the fake comes, by touching, they just know. So when you have studied and you have made discovery of yourself, some person will try to come, and you already know this person. By the time an Akuja, he or she, by the way, I don't want to waste your time and you wasting mine. You are not in the radar. It's not a thing, let me go and pray, let me go and think. No. But because you have studied and you have known. Hello. Because entering into marriage, it's a lifelong commitment. And as she has said, and in case it does not last long, let nobody cheat you, because I have counseled, I've seen. Anytime there is a divorce in marriage, it hurts. Either you are right or you are wrong. True or false, sir? It hurts. And not only does it hurt you, it also hurts the offspring. And because you want to avoid that truth, God forbid where there have been premature and timely death in marriage. But where there is a divorce or separation. Now look, for instance, what Kelvin is saying. Already in this situation, this young man, you have called him a boy. Okay, this boy. Because to be a man is by choice. This boy has already had 2 women and there are 3 children. He is about to hurt one by denying this boy. I always say this. My son is around with us here. I always say this, even in church. Peradventure, we go to hospital and donating blood or anything, and we discover he's not my son. Maybe because by the time they were being born and were taken to nursery, there was exchange accidentally by the medics. He will not cease being my son. And they later discover that date who went with my child, a son. I will not go and ask for that son and discard this one. Because this one, I named him. I am proud of the work I've done on training him. I'm telling you, the investment I've made on him, I cannot exchange. Are you getting me? I cannot exchange for anything because of the input. So, before you run, because some of us run to relationship because you feel, I'm lonely, I think I need a man. I'm lonely, I think I need a girl. No. Be whole. Enter into relationships, to a relationship when you are ready. And let me tell you, it's good. When you enter into a relationship, don't stay long. Because you'll start doing things that married people do while you're not married. And when this man has gotten all the things the married men get free of charge, do you think he will marry you? Hello? Especially girls, don't allow yourself to be cheated. Are we together? Know who you are. And lastly, I'll say this. We don't marry for beauty, for figure. We marry for purpose. We marry for what? Because marriage is companionship and complementary. You need to marry somebody who will complement you. Can you imagine I being a clergy, that is my area of calling, and as I told you in the morning, I knew from all that time in primary that I've been called to ministry. Then I marry an air hostess. When I need her, like today she was leading us in worship, she's on air, just sending us some things. Hi, babe. To Paris, from Paris to Washington, from Washington, New York, then to New Delhi, then South Africa, and then Kenya. You find for 3 weeks, she's not there. I've been left with children. Do you think with time that marriage will not work? Are you getting me? But my wife, as an accountant, from the time even we started relating, it was very clear. She knew the call of God upon my life, and we agreed. When the right time comes and the ministry will need her services, she will transit. So there have never been war. Ministry does not give her much money like the one she was earning when working out there as an accountant. But she's very contented doing the work of ministry. Are you getting me? So you don't marry for beauty. Bible says beauty is deceitful. Those boobs you see and one day they'll be sacked, they'll reach the amplicod. Those biceps you see today, they'll be a kitambi. He told you this. Nowadays we don't call it kitambi. You know what we call it among the clergy people? Golgotha. You know Golgotha, where Christ was crucified? Yeah, because when we put those our crosses, they land on where? Golgotha. So, are you seeing it? It's very important. You marry for purpose. And purpose will bring compatibility, will bring discussions. Are you getting it? Will bring challenge of growth and nourishing one another. And always, when you are out there, there are things to speak about and to build one another about. But first of all, you need to study, learn. Study. No, I'm not just saying academic. In the areas of relationship, grow and mature in that area. So that by the time the Mr. Right or the Miss Right is coming your way, you know how to handle the entire thing. So that you will not make your mistakes with the other person. It might end up becoming a fatal accident that one of you or the two of you might not end up surviving. Thank you.
Thank you for that. That was a very enlightening session. And I can see that our time is far much spent. However, I'm looking at the questions that have been presented here, and I honestly think we should address them. No, we are now moving from love onto self-esteem. They're just five. And in our answering, let's try and be brief, yeah? So, Coach Tony, this is a person who's asking a question, and he says, so I have been having self-esteem issues. It started when I was in grade 6 due to change of school and intimidation from my teacher, who I was poor in his subject. So since then, I have always known I am not good and not worthy, I have tried to overcome it, but every time I get challenged, it takes me back. How can I overcome this?
Okay. A lot has been said to answer that question earlier, so I would refer back to your notes. But one thing that I would add to that is find something that you are good at doing. You hear me what I say? Find something that is your strength. We call this in counseling a strength-based approach. So when we counsel people, we look at their strength and we talk about their weakness. If you can maximize your strengths, if you can focus on your strengths and begin to build up some confidence, then your esteem will follow. You see what I mean? And so I would say focus on finding that thing that you can do well and begin to encourage yourself in it. And then have somebody else to validate. Find someone else who you can get wisdom from, and find, again, a mentor who can tutor you so they can tell you when you're doing well. But that's only going to last so long, because guess what? People can tell you, man, you're doing a great job, but then you don't believe them. And they say, wow, you are really great at this. And then you fall, oh, not really. And then what that means is you have to accept your strength. Some people don't accept their strength because they like being able to complain. And they don't like to rise up to the responsibility of what they do well. I know a professional baseball player in the United States who made millions of dollars. And I was working in a homeless shelter. And I saw him coming into the homeless shelter. He came in first to get meals. And I say, wow, this man is a millionaire. Why is he here? He had fallen on drugs and had lost everything that he had. And he gained some of it back. He found an apartment. He was living in the apartment. And he was by himself. And he had recovered from drugs, but he kept coming. After he got off of drugs, he kept coming to the chapel services. And I asked him the question, I got to know him, and he told me this. He says, it's difficult at the top. It's easier to stay at the bottom. I don't have the expectations of the people when I'm my best. I don't have to hear the expectations of people. So he found it easier to be invisible and not his best self or his true self. In order to be here and to be your true self and to be able to handle the expectations of people is to know the expectations of God. Because sometimes people have more expectations than God does. Y'all didn't hear what I said. People will put on you more expectations than God himself. David says, I'd rather fall into the hands of God than to fall into the hands of men. And so you know the Lord's expectations. Find out what your strength is. Begin to do those things well. And don't try to do a lot of things. Do one thing well. And that will begin to build up some confidence, and you'll begin to have some more self-esteem because you start feeling good about what you're doing. So learn to master one thing and become an expert in it. And when you become an expert in it, guess what? People come to you. And when you see people coming to you for advice and for wisdom and for guidance, it's telling you something. They value what you have. And you must share that in humility and acknowledge that you have it. It's okay. It's okay to be excellent. Do you hear me? You don't have to shrink. In the United States, oftentimes in the midst of white America, whenever we go to a job, it's expected of the black person to shrink in the presence of a white person. It's expected for the black person to not show their excellence so that the white person can look good.